Well, number one, thanks everyone for sort of turning up today. This is the 22nd time that I've actually stood up on this thing at Computershare's AGM, either as CEO or as chairman, and if anyone's read the announcements, this will be the last time. We'll go into that in a minute. Today is therefore probably a little bit emotional for me. I'll try and keep it all under control. It's also a special day because it's Remembrance Day, so at 11 o'clock I think there'll be a loudspeaker announcement about that, and we will stop for a minute's silence. For those of you that are as old as me, a few of you around I can see, it's also a special day. Who remembers what today is the anniversary of? Come on. Absolutely. The day Gough Whitlam got sacked. And there's a fascinating article in the AFR today about how Mr Fraser sort of burnt some emails from Middle Party members, which wouldn't have happened. But in later years I did meet Mr Fraser a few times because of his work with asylum seekers, and I'm not sure he really did some good stuff in the end. I think he was trying to make up for that, but we won't go into too much politics. So we have a quorum, and I have pleasure in declaring the meeting open. Firstly, as I always do, we'll introduce the directors of Computershare. I always say it, and I'll say it again, I think Computershare has been such a successful company over the years. Number one, because of its staff, its culture, its purple blood. It still happens. It's just wonderful, and something that I try to instill in other companies, but people ask me how you create culture. You never create it. It's something that happens, and it really comes from management. And I think the culture also, of Computershare's board, I read a lot of things in papers about boards and arguments and that. We nearly had a vote. We nearly had our first vote. I was our last thing as chairman, but we didn't. So we've always agreed on everything. And we've had, just like as far as, here they are. Finally, my daughters, well, two of them. The other one said, Casey and Nikki, thank you. We were going to hold up for you, but I couldn't wait. You've got seats down the front here, girls. It's going to embarrass you all. You don't have to register, it's all right. I know who you're voting for. Down here, girls. Okay, now I've lost where I was. Now, introducing, as culture and as I said, boards, we've been very lucky to, and as we have managed board succession over the years, we've very much managed CEO progression. We've done, I think, that extremely well, which is part of the reason Computershare has been so successful. Stuart, he's an old pro at this now, second time round, has had a very challenging job lately, and we had 365 pages of the board report this time, but so there's a lot of work going on around the world, and Stuart will fill you in on that in a moment. Mr Jones, who is going to take over from me, who's been magnificent as head of the Risk and Audit Committee, and also as, independent director, which we won't need anymore because Simon is independent, but before we did need it because I obviously wasn't independent. My beautiful sister Penny, who was thinking about retiring but decided to stay on, which is great. Les, who has taught us all about corporate governance, and his experience in the world of finance and insurance and everything has absolutely been invaluable. Also the fact that he lives in the UK, we get an insight to what's happened there. Then we've got Marcus, who's been with us for how many years, Marcus? Ooh. About 10. You had a break for a few years, didn't you? He was Finance Minister for Germany, which means he had to get off the board, but he came back again. Then the lovely Tiffany. Is this your first one, Tiff, or second one? Is this your second? Right, okay. So Tiffany, who, as I probably said last year, put in some horrible boards, and so I thought she needed to have a good board. But anyway, Tiff will be taking over the Risk and Audit Committee. Joe, who from America, who I've known for many, many years, Bank of New York, and it's really great to have somebody from the US. We need, so much of our business is in the US now. We really do need to, it's great having Joe who understands, because the Americans do things a little bit differently at times. And we have so much fun with their regulators, and that Stuart really likes the challenge. Also attending, a representative of our auditors, Pricewaterhouse, Bart, who's been to every meeting we have, and he never changed. Still here. Thanks, Bart. You've been a great asset to Computershare and over the years, and I've known you for so long. Now, the minutes of the annual general meeting of 12th November 2014 have been signed by the chairman as a correct record. The minutes are available for inspection by shareholders by contacting the company secretary. The notice of meeting was distributed to all shareholders and copies also available at the back of the room. I take the notice of meeting as read. I'll give a little bit of a, allow me the indulgence of saying a few things. It's my last time I'll be able to stand up here at an AGM and talk. That's what basically was announced to the market this morning. There's nothing sinister about it. I did offer to resign from the board of Computershare because I think every company needs to progress. I'm getting on. And then, thank you, Mary. Mary's shaking her head. And the board of Computershare actually said, no, we'd love you to stay on, which I was very pleased about. So it's not that I'm going anywhere. I just think it's time to move on, just as when I stepped down as CEO was the right thing to do, and I think it's the right thing. I couldn't be pleased to hand it over to someone more capable than Simon. He was involved in the actual flow to Computershare, so he has a long history of Computershare, knows it well, and it's great to be able to hand over to Simon. There's a little bit of things there, and I was thinking, as I always do, because I never get too prepared for these things, thinking last night I got home, now what am I going to say tomorrow, the last time? And I was just going through my old files and that and I found some wonderful things. There's a list of a few things there that have happened in Computershare. I'll just quickly go through, because I have found this old file from 2005 about significant events in Computershare's history. So hopefully I won't bore you too much. If you want to go and get a cup of tea and have something else if you're getting pretty sick of it. But we started in 78 with 2 employees, myself and Peter Perryman. I don't think Pete's here today. I think he just retired about a month ago. We ran a registry system on an old Burroughs machine. And our first clients were Woodside, which we've still got, Santos, which we've still got, Western Mining, which were taken over by BHP, right. We've got them as well, so we've still got them. In 1979, Pete and I wrote the first system. We did it in 3 months. I don't know what's wrong with technology these days. Where's Mark? Yeah, had bloody years. We had a system up and going in 3 months and it was all working. A little bit more complicated now. In 1980, we did start, myself and Ken Milner were the joint partners, and we had a 50% owned by a company called Halifax Computershare, who in the days where people used to be able to administer their own super funds and they were a bit naughty and got in a bit of trouble. So we bought half of Computershare, their half, out in 1980 for $100,000. In 1982, the whole market was that slow. We actually wrote an accounting system and that was actually used by Computershare. Sometimes I think it's probably better than the stuff we got now, but was used for about 20 years. Key date in Computershare's history is 1989, where we were approached by the London Clearing House and they offered us $8 million to buy Computershare. And we thought that was what a wonderful, what am I going to do with $4 million? That'd be, live on a boat for the rest of my life. Thank goodness they turned the offer. Well, they pulled out of the deal just as about to happen, which was probably the luckiest thing that's ever happened in my life. In 89, we developed Script. Mark, did you check on 141? You haven't, right? They were trying to. What? Really? How could? It was too efficient. Oh, okay, right. There must be something in there that I wrote. They said Penny's still got some stuff in there, but anyway, so it did last for long. That was Script. In 94, we did float Computershare. We had market cap of 36 mil. There's about 30 staff, and shares were the equivalent of, they were 11.25 cents at that stage. In 1996, I went and spent a year, as my children might remember, to live in the UK because I was a super salesman. I sold one deal, which was £300 annually fee, so that's how good I am. But we did that's what you sort of had to do, and Then the Victorian government, then actually we got to deal with Talisman, the New York Stock Exchange, doing all the Australian settlements, and the Victorian government, we actually had an office in Australia House there. In 1997, we did our first expansion overseas. We bought registry managers in New Zealand, opened the New Zealand office, and then same year we bought Ernst & Young in Australia and KPMG. 1998, the Royal Bank of Scotland, which was the big deal, and Penny might remember a little trip in a train up to Edinburgh. Penn, you remember that one?
Not very well.
Not very well. We had a few scotches. Penn loves a scotch. And we sat in the office of RBS in Edinburgh and had to sit there for an hour. But anyway, we ended up getting that. The most memorable thing is I remember that were the dark days when I used to smoke. And we were in there with the chief of RBS in there, beautiful. They had one of those old banking changes where their offices were. And anyway, I smoked. So the other guy that was doing the deal for RBS and I went into the toilet to have a fag, basically. And we said, this is stupid. So that's where actually our first big deal was done in the toilets in the Royal Bank of Scotland. We then bought the Allied Irish Bank and then South Africa. 99, central registration in Hong Kong, which is one of our brilliant businesses, probably one of the best in the world we got now. And we also started CCS. The gentleman down there, remember? 2000, we went to the US and did Harris Bank. Canadian registry business we bought, the corporate trust business, which would be, I think, probably the biggest margin business we've got in the world. So we went there. I remember going up with Tony Wales, and I didn't know what corporate trust was all about. You know, so we know nothing about it. All we wanted was buy the registry, but they had it in one big office and all that sort of stuff. So we did the deal on the registry. That was a pretty good deal. It was basically after we'd bought Harris Bank. I remember we did in Harris Bank. We were there, Tony Wales and I, and we did due diligence down in Chicago, and the Canadian people sort of came in from the who was it? Which bank was it? Scotiabank. They tried to buy Harris, and they had a team of 20 people doing due diligence, and he was Tony Wales and I. So after they lost that deal to us, they said, well, come up here and buy this. So we got that at a really good deal. And I said, no, I don't want this corporate trust business. But Joe would remember in those days, they probably still do, they were selling them at about 6 or 7 times revenue. It was just crazy stuff. Anyway, so, and we kept going. Then they had to separate it, and they were trying to build walls in offices and everything else. We ended up buying it for 2 times revenue, which was just like an unbelievable deal in those days. And that's how we got into Canada. 2003, we went into Russia. And Penny, I think you were the only board member that questioned why we should do it. Hindsight, you were probably right. We also bought Georgeson's. In 2003 was a most significant event, probably in my life, because Computershare did its once and only downgrade. And I was going through and I found this wonderful thing, and some of this, a couple of comments I'd made notes at the time from brokers. Now, I don't know if anyone remembers, even on the board, Matthew Booker. Do you remember Matthew Booker, Penn? He was the Merrill Lynch analyst who really hated us. Anyway, and he said, my view is the lack of detail in the accounts and the recent decision by the company to stop reporting market share numbers and shareholder numbers for its core registry business makes it harder for an inquirer to complete due diligence. Management, which have a large holding in the stock, are also poorly regarded by the market. Next one, Ivor Rees, who I think still around, working for Bells, yeah. Somebody probably the analyst I had most respect for. He used to be an AFR journalist. He said his comments were a sitting duck for US processing majors. Computershare Limited is shoved into the bargain basement as a result of today's effective profit downgrade, with the company confirming market fears that its 2002 numbers will come in at the bottom of the company's forecast. The last one is I really love now. And I'm sure there's some ABC listeners here that listen to 774 and John Fane. Yes? Hopefully. Say yes, Mark. Yes, right. Now, as you know, Marcus Padley, he does the Marcus Padley report. So he's still on the radio. And this is what Marcus Padley said. They are stuffed. No wonder their share price is getting flogged. No wonder the competitors are going to chew up their previously fat margins. No wonder things are not improving in the second half. Their pursuit of the buck has destroyed their service culture, alienated staff from the broker community, and damaged morale inside the company. This is the classic, and somebody should tell the guy this. And don't tell us to go to find the information on the internet. We do not have time. The internet is not commercial for thousands of detailed requests each day. Now, always remember what you say. Somebody might quote it back to you. Right, where am I? So that's just about... So that's downgrades, yeah, and we've never done one since, and hopefully for Stuart's and Board's thing, we never do one again. 2004 was Wakabi. 2005, which is just after that, I then moved over. We did Equiserve, which we used to have this wonderful thing where every deal, there was about 74 of them from when we floated to when I stopped being CEO, and we used to give them all girls' names. This one, Equiserve, which was probably one of the biggest after, well, in the end, Bank of New York Mellon was bigger, but it was really big. That's when the share price doubled overnight. We used to call it Ellie after Ellen McPherson. I don't know if any of the shareholders remember that meeting in New York where I got a little bit emotional and said, everyone was saying, why should we do this? Anyway, so that's enough of my reminiscing. I will now, I think, hand over to Mr. Irving. Is that is what I should do now? Yes.
I will skip over the slides Chris has missed.
Oh, yeah.
The scripted ones.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, it's not working.
And let me just sort this out.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, and he's
Good,
supposed to talk about Simon here, but we all know about Simon, and he'll get up. Yeah. There's also some changes to the board committees that Chris was also going to announce, and they're also behind and have been announced to the market. So here we are at the CEO address. Well, first of all, it's really nice to see so many of our regular shareholders. As Chris said, his 22nd AGM. It's my second, so I guess I'm still on my P plates. As we've just heard, I've always found the meetings chaired by Chris a lot of fun, and I guess it's going to be down to Simon and I to inject a bit of humour into proceedings going forward. So if I think we can bring this meeting closer to Halloween, maybe we can do it all in fancy dress next year and have a little bit of fun. So today I'm going to cover some of the highlights for the financial year 2015 and talk about some of the many achievements throughout the year, some of these, and also highlight some of the amazing projects we support at Computershare through our social responsibility efforts. A little bit of a recap on group strategy and priorities, and as ever, end with the usual guidance. So let's move on to the FY15 recap. FY 2015, and indeed 2016, the year we're in just now, as years that have been affected by currency fluctuations. As most shareholders will know, around 45% of the group revenues are actually earned in the US, and the past 12 months has seen a material strengthening of the US dollar against most of our other revenue currencies. So when we reflect on key financials, we often report them in actual and also in constant currency. Constant currency basically means if we use the same rates as the prior reporting period, how would we have done? And it's just a way to give an indication of underlying performance. But I'll also talk a little bit about some of these currency shenanigans a little bit later on. But as you can see, for FY 2015, total operating revenue was down 2.3%, but in constant currency terms, up around about 1.4% to a little over $2 billion US. Management earnings per share, which is one of our sort of key metrics that we base ourselves on, down 0.7, so just a little, but up close to 2% on a constant currency basis. And then management EBITDA, actual up 2.5%, and even in the sort of tough financial conditions with sort of macroeconomic headwinds on FX and interest rates, our management EBITDA in constant currency was up 5.3%, and I think that's the largest management EBITDA we've ever posted in Computershare in its history. Yep. In terms of dividends, which as shareholders you all like to hear about, the company paid a final dividend in Aussie dollars of 16 cents per share in September, along with the half year one in March, making a total of 31 cents for the year. And you can see on the chart behind me at the top the gradual increase in terms of the returns to shareholders via dividends. The franking credit levels continue to be affected by the significant level of group earnings outside of Australia. And although we're able to increase the dividend franking from 20 to 25% in the final dividend, you'll see that the foreign exchange issue comes into this a little bit as well, and I'll talk about that in the next slide, especially for Australian shareholders. The way Computershare operates, most of our revenue is matched by costs in the exact same currency. So our Canadian business bill in Canadian dollars and its costs are in Canadian dollars. Our US business, US dollars, costs are in US dollars. We don't move a lot of funds around the group. However, what we do is we do report in US dollars, and that actually inherently reduces FX translation noise. However, as I mentioned earlier on, in 15 and 16, the material strengthening of the US dollar over many of our other sort of reporting and operating currencies, I apologize, has been strengthened. So on the left side, you see the management earnings per share chart in US dollars from 13, and also the FY16 estimate based on the guidance we gave the market. For Australian investors, if we actually translated at the exchange rates, the average exchange rates through that year, you can see the chart on the right-hand side. This would be our management EPS. Yep. And I think that's important for you shareholders to understand the underlying strength of the organization. Now, I did try to get the Remuneration Committee to use the slide on the chart on the right-hand side, but you can rest assured they're doing their job because they laughed me out of the room. Yeah, but as I said, it's important that shareholders understand that. So moving on to some of our achievements in 2015, as you can see, that there has been many. Just sort of picking on a couple on this slide, you can see we did make a couple of acquisitions throughout 2015 and in 14, and we continue to drive synergies from these acquisitions. The global stock plans business in the UK, we completed all the conversion of the systems that we acquired, a couple of transfer agency businesses in Canada, and again, synergies met or exceeded our expectations there. And demonstrating our relentless drive for quality and the strength of our people, we'll note that we were actually ranked #1 in our core operating regions in independent surveys in terms of the service we provide not only to our clients but also to their shareholders. And I think that's very important because quality of service and the knowledge of our people is a key differentiator for Computershare in the marketplace. We also launched the CPU Garage. This is all about innovation, an innovation hub driving big data analytics and new digital business models here in Melbourne. And it's really about applying a different method of approach to delivering products. One of the things that are really important for Computershare is to drive organic growth harder than we've ever done it before. And as a result of that, we're going to need more products to sell, and the innovation hub is very, very important for Computershare going forward. Of course, some of our achievements that we're most proud of are not just business achievements, they're also in the area of our corporate and social responsibility. On the environmental slide, we have 5-year plans to reduce consumptions in all our key premises, and to date we've made really good progress. Yep. We also work very, very hard to engage the staff in these sustainability objectives. Examples of that are our Green Oscars and our Carbon Games, where offices compete for funds to drive initiatives, and it really creates a lot of collaboration around the world. On the community side, we continue to support the excellent work of the Sunrise communities in Cambodia, funding new classrooms and houses for orphans. And we also have sustainable farming projects in Ghana and education projects in Kenya and Sri Lanka. These projects are funded by the generosity of Computershare staff, and we as a company match their donations dollar for dollar, and we also give the opportunity for these staff to visit the sites and become part of the extended family of these initiatives. I thank all our staff around the world who continue to contribute to these efforts, as well as give time to their own local communities. So I'm now moving on to the presentation that talks a little bit more generically about Computershare, its strengths, and also our strategy. So on to the strengths. Computershare has a leading market position in a range of non-discretionary services that have high barriers to entry. We're very integrated on a global business, and none of our competitors are that deeply integrated, and that allows us to provide many different types of products to our customers and their shareholders or employees. We have a diverse and loyal customer base with very low key client concentration risk. Over 70% of our revenues are of a recurring nature, and we're also very favorably disposed to a normalized interest rate environment. And we sit every day listening to the Fed in the US, hoping for that US interest rate rise. We thought we'd get it in October, but it looks as though they're heading towards a December rise, so we'll be keeping our fingers crossed for that one. As a company, we're also a very low CapEx company and have a very high earnings to cash conversion ratio and a history of maintaining a prudent financial position. So that's what we think the real key strengths to Computershare is. But I think above and beyond all these words is our brand and our reputation in the market. We strive to be the best at what we do, and we're very, very protective of that brand. And I think that is very, very powerful in terms of the clients, their shareholders and employees and mortgage holders, etc., that we deal with all around the world. So moving on to Computershare's group strategy and what our priorities are. There's really three pillars to our strategy. The first one is driving operational efficiency. That's all about being innovative, but can also continue to drive costs out of the business. We also have a key pillar of improving our front office skills to protect and drive revenue, and that's all about organic growth. And finally, we strive to enhance shareholder returns through effective use of our capital. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these pillars. Operational quality and efficiency. As you've heard earlier from the satisfaction surveys, quality is important to Computershare, and we invest a lot in measurement tools to help us make informed decisions on the best way in which we can run our business. In an increasingly complex regulatory and compliance environment, costs can easily creep up on us. But the pillar of the strategy pillar here is all about finding ways to keep costs down. We continue to be a strong believer of investing in technology for operational and market share advantage. We have also started moving other business units around the world into our global service model to reduce operational costs and also embark on a pretty major US property rationalization project. Just to give you some color on that particular project, we had previously announced that we'd be consolidating a number of our operational centers in the US into Louisville, Kentucky. For those of you that followed the company for a while, you know that we've made a significant number of acquisitions in the US, and over time we've probably been left with too much office space, and we're also in some expensive centers, especially on the east coast of the US. So we have a large project where we're essentially going to be relocating a number of positions from these centers to Louisville, Kentucky. The expected cost of this project is in the region of $85 to $90 million. But we expect, on completion of that project, annual cost savings between $25 to $30 million, which gives us an anticipated payback period for almost 3 years. Now, we'll not realize all these cost savings in one go. It takes a number of years to be able to move that number of people, retrain them from northeast coast down into Louisville, Kentucky. But we'll progressively realize these savings through financial year 2017 to 2019. And all costs will be fully realized by the time we get into financial year 2020. So again, this is an example of Computershare not looking at things in the short term, but investing in the business for the long term, for the health of Computershare going forward. The next part of our strategy, as I mentioned, is all about driving organic growth. We spend a lot of time doing data measurement in our operations, in our back office. Yeah? Behind the wall here is one of our call centers. We could go into a call center and tap any one of these staff on the shoulder, and we can bring up a dashboard, and it will tell us how that member of staff is performing, what their overall quality is, what their performance like, what their adherence is, yeah, what their productivity is. And I think it allows us to make decisions, and that person can benchmark themselves against their team members, and we give them full transparency to that. And their team members can bench themselves to other teams in the call center. And then we can also benchmark our Australian call center against our Manila call center, against our Boston call center, against our Chicago call center, our Montreal call center. Because we drive all the statistics, and that helps us make the best decisions where to route certain work to in Computershare and do it in the most effective way possible. What we need to do in Computershare going forward is to take that analytic capability that we've invested in the back office and start moving that to the front office. To put it simply, Computershare needs to win new business, defend and grow our existing business, and maintain and drive high levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty. So the front office has a lot of emphasis at the moment across my senior management team on a global basis. The third part of the pillar is all about capital management and effectively what we do with Computershare's capital. Back in August, we announced an on-market buyback up to a maximum value of 140 million Australian dollars. As of yesterday, Computershare had spent just short of 45 million Aussie dollars on acquiring just over 4 million shares at an average price of $10.46. Looking ahead, and in terms of trying to define a strategy for this, we intend to maintain our gearing level at around 1.75 to 2.25 net debt to EBITDA, with flexibility on that depending on the availability of compelling investment opportunities. If these opportunities do not emerge, we will consider further returns to shareholders to maintain the leverage in this band. On the other task this year has also been about simplifying and improving the asset portfolio. In June 2015, we disposed of Connect Now, which was part of the ServiceWorks book of assets. And eventually, we listened to Penny and decided to sell the Russian business, which we exited in just post-June 2015, so in financial year 2016. And we also completed the exit of VEM, our German corporate actions bank. However, we also made an acquisition. In August 2015, we acquired a company called Gilardi & Co., which is a class actions administrator on the west coast of the US. So in line with our re-evaluated acquisition criteria and threshold, the Gilardi acquisition really sat in with what we believe Computershare should be looking at the moment. Yeah? It gives us a strong anticipated return on our invested capital. It has a strong alignment to our core competencies and is in a growing market. And it adds expertise to a suite of solutions and provides the opportunity for revenue and cost synergy. So these are really the criteria in which Computershare will start looking at acquisitions going forward. We're raising the bar there, and we have re-evaluated the criteria to make sure what we're deciding to get into will add value to shareholders like never before. So I guess that wraps up our group strategy and priorities, and my final slide is really about guidance. Yep. This is what we said in August. We are tracking to plan, and we're reiterating the August guidance. Yep. Of course, this is under the assumption that equity, foreign exchange, and interest rate markets remain at current levels, and that the FY16 corporate action activity is similar to 2015. And at the moment, as I said, we are tracking to or just a little bit ahead of plan. At this stage, I'd like to thank all employees around the world in Computershare They really make the place such a fantastic place to work. And it's their hard work and dedication that allows your company to continue to go from strength to strength. And with that, I'll now pass on to Simon. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Chris. Nice, kind words. Good morning, everybody. I'm honoured to be given the opportunity to chair this unique Australian company. I've got big shoes to fill. No, very big shoes to fill. Now, if we were sitting watching a reality TV program at this moment, you'd start having a film of all of the highlights of Chris, whether it was social or business, and it would go on quite a long time. But Chris, we haven't done that, thank God. And it's probably a benefit to everybody we haven't done it. But I think there's one slide which for you shareholders should stand out as representing the supreme achievements of Mr. Morris. And it's the one behind me. Look at those statistics from inception on the returns to shareholders under Chris's tenure as a CEO and as the chair. Now, not particularly comforting for Stuart and I to sit here and have those behind us going forward, but we will aspire to that, and hopefully with the new management team we'll make some real progress on that. But it's not only this shareholder return focus that's Chris's achievement. He's got a much bigger shadow over the rest of the business and in making the business what it is today and why it is a unique Australian company. His influence is pervasive. It's on culture, it's on the kind of people, and probably even most from my perspective, it's on the attitude of getting things done and doing it in a very fun way. I watch Chris's relationship with his people and the loyalty that he engenders in his people, and I'm constantly amazed. But then I'm not really amazed because you look at the interactions with those people and you can actually understand why that happens. Special way of communication. I continually get fascinated by Chris's passion for technology. We sit in board meetings and Chris always goes back to the technology. It's where the business started. And he still has that passion now. And compared to some of us more technological dinosaurs, he understands all of that stuff. And the commercial instinct that's been there from day dot, when I can remember doing the first couple of deals with Chris, hasn't disappeared at all, although I think it might have done on some of his pubs sometimes. Chris is one out of the box. He does things differently. He empowers people, and he's absolutely committed to Computershare. When he transitioned to chair, he did it seamlessly, if somewhat unusually. We had a problem in early 2000s with our European businesses, and Chris had stepped down from chairman, took Marie over there with him, and spent a lot of time in the UK fixing that business. Now that was an unusual governance thing because Chris was head of Europe, he reported to the global CEO, who reported to Chris. But it worked. And it's testament to the way Chris does things when you go back and you look at the results of that UK business and you look at the people who he developed in that UK business, just shows how it was. When you look at what's Chris now becoming a director, that transition will be as seamless, and I know it will be. He will be a very significant contributor to the board. I know he'll have this, he will be supportive, he'll be loyal, he'll give very wise counsel. And I just have this sneaky feeling, based on the last couple of meetings, that with the kind of role of balanced chairman removed, he might be even a little bit more passionate in his views than he's even been in the last couple of years. Chris, your achievements have been really significant. On behalf of the board, I thank you for your immense contribution as chairman. And on behalf of the shareholders, I do that as well. And I'd like everybody just to recognise that, please. Thank you. right to reply. This is an interesting time for the company. We have a relatively new but very vibrant management team. We have a refreshed board and one with even contribution and some different skills, which has been very beneficial. We've had headwinds with interest rates, and we have strong competition in each of the markets that we operate in. But we have a really sound market position, and we have, as we've discussed over the last couple of days as a board, significant opportunities available to us, and they are exciting ones. Personally, I'm looking forward to using my skills and my experience that I've gained both within Computershare and outside to help Stuart and Mark and their management teams to actually try and get to some of those numbers that Chris has set us on the board, but probably even more importantly, to try and keep the values and the qualities that have made this business a unique Australian one still embedded in it. And that's one of the real challenges, and I'm absolutely determined to do that. But thank you, and thank you again, Chris.
Oh, don't know what to say after that. Thank you for the very kind words, Simon. And as I said, it's not me. It's been a whole group of wonderful people that I've worked with. You know, it's been 37 years since I've been involved with Computershare, and probably one of the most important things in my life, other than my beautiful wife, who's not with us now, and my 3 beautiful daughters. So again, thank you very much. We now get on to the more formal side of the business. We will be taking questions from shareholders. Once again, this year we'll be using the electronic voting in regards to the items of business at today's meeting. Your handset will also be used as a microphone if you wish to ask questions. When you register for the meeting, you have been given a white plastic smart card. If you have not already done so, please insert the card into the top of the handset with the barcode at the bottom and facing towards you. Everyone done that? Handle that case? Good. When inserted correctly, a welcome message will appear briefly on the screen. Then you will be returned to the holding screen where your name will now appear at the top of the display. When the floor is open to questions, you will see a prompt on the handset, then ask you to join a queue. If you wish to ask a question, simply press the microphone button situated to the left of the keypad screen, followed by the green confirmation button. You will receive a confirmation that you are now in the queue, and your name will appear on a list on my monitor. And I'll wait 2 seconds before it comes up. When you are asked to speak, your handset will automatically activate. Please then speak into the handset, holding it as if it were a normal microphone. When asking your questions, please stand, state your name, state whether you're a shareholder or a proxy holder. Speak clearly. Once you have asked your questions, your microphone will be deactivated. If you wish to ask another question, simply repeat the process to join the queue. Open the floor to questions. Not sure why you have that there normally, but if there's no more, we'll have questions. Obviously, the ability to ask questions on each of the submissions we're putting for voting. I'll move on to the more formal business of the meeting. Was there any questions? Tom, sorry, just looked at the screen. Tom Rado from the Australian Shareholders Association.
Well, I'm Tom Rado. As I was introduced, I'm also representing the Australian Shareholders Association, independent, not-for-profit association of retail shareholders. I also hold a number of proxies, and with me on my right is Ian Kakari, also from the Australian Shareholders Association. About 3 weeks ago, we were pleased to have a meeting with you, sir, Chairman, and with the CFO, where we asked a number of questions, queries, which were very satisfactorily answered. And I want, for the benefit of the audience, I may ask 1 or 2 questions, but the rest of them has been covered by the CEO's address. Now, Mr. Chairman, we were also like to make a comment that for the last 4 years since I've been representing the ASA. You made a point to meet us before with the meeting, together with your executives, and we are very pleased to have you and your very sort of friendly, perhaps casual, responses at our pre-AGM meetings. And of course, you're not departing from with this organization, but I'd like to thank, and we look forward to the same relationship with the incoming chair, Mr. Simon Jones. Now, I have two very simple questions. The first one is that in view of the fact that the statutory earnings were down by approximately 39%, and the management or underlying profit having been near zero, and the continued subdued economic climate, and your forecast that the EPS for 2016 will be approximately 7% lower than for this year. Although retail shareholders love receiving high dividends, what would be the reaction of institutional larger shareholders, and whether it's prudent to continue to pay out a higher dividend? And of course, this leads me to the next question. Are you prepared to forecast what the dividend will be next year? And if so, perhaps comment on the wisdom of capital management of paying perhaps a dividend, and rather than returning it for growth and everything else.
I'm going to try and remember. Can I answer them before you keep going? I'll forget them all.
Huh?
Can I just answer those two? Obviously, dividends, as Stuart said, and after the last announcement, we both met some of the institutional investors who did criticise us a little bit on capital management, and that's why Stuart actually emphasises in his presentation. We've got a very comfortable ratio of debt to profitability. We've still got excess. We've got no problem with our debt. We've got excess capacity. I don't think the dividend is not excessive. We've still got plenty of opportunities if we want to sort of raise money if there's something. So I can't see us actually what we do next year with dividends, and we'll see what the situation is at that time. But you can keep going now, Tom.
The second question, if I may ask, is perhaps you'd like to comment more about the reason for exiting Russia.
Yeah, no press here, is there? No? I get a little bit, as you see, Goffwit, I'm not a Labor voter. I voted Labor and Liberal about the same time all around, but I can tell you I'm very happy with the change of Prime Minister. Not to get political, but Mr Abbott made some absolutely crazy comments about shirting Mr Putin, which did not help the situation. We became nearly non gratis in Russia. We were brought up in the Dermot that, here's this Australian company controlling the shares. We had a very good position in Russia because a lot of the overseas companies that had shareholding in Russian companies, they actually liked the fact that Computershare was actually running their register because of the integrity and everything else. And back in history, a lot of the oligarchs actually managed to get control of these companies by maybe questionable practices in the registry. But he did make a comment, was brought up by some member of the Dermot, that basically the Australian company, they might take all the shares of the Russian companies. So we were made very clear to us that we had no options, and especially if we valued the safety of our staff. So I won't go any further, but it was something. Obviously, we've had some problems in Russia before. We were defrauded for $50 million from absolutely nothing we did wrong, again, with those sort of threats. I love the Russian people. They've got a few little other problems at the moment with WADA and things like that. But so it wasn't a voluntary thing, really. We sort of had to get out. In some ways, I think the Audit Committee, the Risk and Audit Committee, are probably quite thankful we are out of Russia because it did control a lot of problems. I remember when we initially did it, we're a great Computershare, and people will love us because we're a global company and we're global insurance, and that's why they went for us. So the first thing we did before we got out there was we reduced our insurance cover. But so it be. That's what it is. But I think it's Stuart did a great job of getting out of there with actually some money at all. So now, we got any other questions? Anyone going to push their button? No girls? No. All right, there'll be no more questions. I'll get on to the formal business of the meeting. The first item of business relates to the tabling of the company's financial reports for the year ended 30th of June 2015 and to provide shareholders with the opportunity to raise any issues or questions generally of the directors concerning the financial statements or the business and operations of the company. Shareholders are also entitled to ask questions of the company's auditor, PwC, which has representatives in attendance for the purpose of addressing any shareholder questions directed to them. I now invite shareholders to put questions to the directors or auditors. No questions on that? Okay, if there are no questions, I now propose to proceed with the first of the 4 resolutions to be considered today. I appoint Joe of Computershare Investor Services as the returning officer. Where's Joe? Up the back there. Good. We will be conducting the vote for resolutions by poll using the electronic voting system. The chair is calling a poll for resolutions. Once voting begins, your options will appear on the handset screen. To vote for the resolution, press 1. To vote against, press 2. If you wish to abstain from voting, press 3. Your selection and the word receive will appear on the screen, confirming your vote has been cast. If you change your mind, simply select a new option by pressing 1, 2 or 3. Your original vote will be cancelled and your new selection will be counted. Any appointed proxy should vote using the same method, that is to press 1, 2 or 3. This will cast any open votes you have available. The system will ensure that any instructions given to you by a shareholder will also be cast as directed when the poll is closed. Once the poll is closed, the results will be displayed on the screen behind me, showing the combination of votes cast in the room and proxies and direct votes received prior to the meeting. To get used to the system, as is traditional, which was probably the biggest discussion before the AGM, we do a test resolution. This year it's going to be that Australia should increase the GST. Now, I didn't get a thing because I've got strong views on this, so I can't vote, because if I had, I'd win, but I would vote for it. But the poll is now open. To vote for the resolution, press 1. To vote against, press 2. If you wish to abstain, press 3. We'll give everyone a little bit of time. Oh, let's see. Interesting, very interesting. Good. Somebody come in. Right. Has everyone finished voting? Right, everyone has done so. I now close the poll. And excellent result. You're obviously all very intelligent people. 85.26% have voted for, 14.74% against. On this basis, the resolution obviously would have been carried. Please note that for this test resolution, the results only displayed the votes we have in the room today. When we come to the formal items of business, the results you will see on the screen will be a combination of votes cast live today and any proxies and direct votes received prior to the meeting. Now that you're familiar with this wonderful technology, we will move to consider the first resolution. As the first resolution relates to the appointment as a director, I propose to vacate the chair and hand over to Simon again.
Thank you, Chris. We haven't managed this to get to the minute silence with Chris, but we're getting very close. Yeah. The first resolution relates to the re-election of Chris Morris. Chris is due to retire in accordance with the company's constitution and, being eligible, presents himself for re-election. Supported unanimously by the board, I move the re-election of Chris Morris as a director of the company. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on the resolution? If not, I'll put the resolution to a vote. The resolution and a summary of the direct votes and the proxy votes received now appears on the screen. As you can see, there are 336,000,000 for, 18.9 against and 3 usable, to which I will vote for. Please enter your votes now on your keypad by pressing buttons 1, 2 or 3. To vote for, press 1. To vote against, press 2. And to abstain, press 3. Has everybody who wishes to vote done so? Yep. I now close the poll, and the results should appear on the screen behind me. Thank you. Congratulations, Chris.
I got 5 minutes to get the next one in. Thanks, Simon. The next resolution relates to the re-election of Penny McLagan. Penny is due to retire in accordance with the company's constitution. Being eligible, presents herself for re-election. I move the re-election of Penny McLagan as director. If anyone wishes to speak to this resolution? No. If there are no more questions, I'll put the resolution to vote. The resolution, the summary of direct votes and proxy votes received now appears on the screen. Please enter your votes now on your keypad, pressing 1, 2 or 3, 1 for, 2 against and 3 abstain. 16 out of 30, 25 out of 30, 27. There's 3 people in the room with a keypad. No, there's 28 that are not voting. That's all right. Okay, if everyone that wishes to vote has done so, I now close the poll. The results will appear on the screen behind me, and Penny has beaten me. I knew I should have voted against you. I declare the motion carried and congratulate Penny on her election as the director of the company. We'll get one more in. The next resolution of consideration is the adoption of the company's remuneration report. Corporation requires that the AGM a resolution that the remuneration report is adopted. To be put to a vote, the vote is advisory only and will not bind the company or the directors. The report is set out on pages 34 to 47 of the annual report. It sets out the policy for the remuneration of the directors, CEO and other designated senior executives, and details how their remuneration is structured. It also contains remuneration details for the directors and senior executives for the period ended 30th of June 2015. I move the adoption of the remuneration report. If there's anyone who wishes to speak on this resolution, is there anyone? That'd be nearly a first, I think. If there's no more questions, I will put the resolution to a vote. The resolution and a summary of the direct votes and proxy votes received now appear on the screen. Please enter your votes now on your keypad by pressing 1, 2 or 3, 1 for, 2 against and 3 to abstain. A few more to go. Has everyone voted? Thank you. I now declare the poll closed. The results now appear on the screen behind me, which is I'll declare it carried. Thanks, everyone. So that's the results, and I think a lot of companies would love to have that. Probably means we don't pay the staff enough, but so I declare the motion carried. Next one is the grant of performance rights to the Chief Executive. The next resolution considers approval of a grant of performance rights to CEO Stuart Irving under the terms of the company's long-term incentive plan. Approval is requested from shareholders under the ASX listing rules to authorise the company to grant equity securities to the CEO under an employee incentive scheme. Full details of the terms of issues of the performance rights are set out in the notice of meeting. I move the grant of performance rights to the Chief Executive. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this resolution? Come on, Tom. Yeah. Okay.
Tells you something, Chris.
It does tell you. What does it tell you, Mr. Irving? If there's no one wishes to speak to the questions, I will now put the resolution to a vote. The resolution and the screen of the direct votes and proxy votes received now appear on the screen. Please enter your votes now on your keypad. 1, 2 or 3, 1 for, 2 against, 3 to abstain. 22, 26 out of 30, 27. Okay, we're all done. Everyone wishes to vote done so. I now declare the poll closed. The results appear on the screen behind. I think that would be, any company would love to see that as well. I'm sure that would be not indicative of most companies. Obviously, as everyone realises that all senior executives get given shares, because Stuart is on the board of the company, then it has to be put to a vote of shareholders. Well, now I'll close the meeting, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the business of the meeting. Please, you have your handsets and smart card on your seat, and we'll collect them. There's some tea and coffee over here. Again, thank you for attending this meeting. Thank you for being shareholders, Computershare, and helping to make it such a great company, and won't have to listen to me again. Thanks very much.